Now, with us this morning to review the papers is the editor of Spiked, Tom Slater, and the journalist and author, Janelle Aldred. Thank you both for joining us again. Let's start with you first, Janelle. You've picked out the front of the FT weekend. Certainly it's been a very turbulent time for the crypto world, and one huge company has filed for bankruptcy. Tell us about that.
Yeah, they've lost, well, the empire was worth some $32 billion, FTX. They have filed for bankruptcy. Their founder has resigned. He's a 30-year-old man, Sam Bankman-Fried, and what happened this week, there was basically a run on it, and so people tried to take their money out and they couldn't essentially meet the demand of people trying to withdraw their money, and so he had to file for bankruptcy. And this has led to obviously more conversation around crypto. I think when you're not so savvy in crypto, I'm not that savvy in it, it's easy to dismiss it, but I think like many things to do with online and fintech, it will go through several iterations. This has also affected Bitcoin, so their stocks have dropped by about 60% this year already. What happened yesterday has led to a further drop in it. And so I think what this will do is probably open up a lot of conversation around cryptocurrency, bring it more into the mainstream, and also think about what it should look like in the future. That a business in just over 3 years had a $32 billion valuation, which has managed to be sunk in just a week, should lead to bigger questions about crypto. It's not that there's no oversight, there is oversight, but it seems like there should be a bigger conversation around crypto, the future of money. I never carry any cash. Cashlessness does seem like the future, so it seems like a great time to open up this conversation.
Interesting stuff, Janelle. And Tom, you've pulled out a double-page spread inside The Guardian from the team reporting there in Ukraine. Some really interesting testimony about what civilians have been through during the occupation of Kherson, obviously that area that is being liberated at the moment.
Yeah, some great photos there of the sort of jubilant scenes of residents greeting their liberators as this really key sort of strategic city has been retaken in another sort of stunning counter-offensive. This was, of course, the sort of first regional capital that Putin's invaders managed to capture. It was the entire region of Kherson was effectively annexed by Russia formally after some sham referendum about 6 weeks ago. So the level of humiliation is probably off the scale from anything we've seen previously, even the botched attempt to hit Kiev at the beginning of the invasion, or the counter-offensive in the northeast of the country and Kharkiv as well. So just another really stunning counter-offensive from the Ukrainians there. And again, you see the people spilling out on the streets, completely giving the lie to Putin's line that these people were just waiting to be liberated by Mother Russia. Certainly, that's not the scenes you see on the streets there.
They certainly seem to speak for themselves, and unthinkable, what some of them may have been through since that occupation began in March. Janelle, onto the economy. You pulled out this article, I think it's in The Times, about next week's fiscal statement that we'll be getting from Jeremy Hunt. Suggestions that it will be bad news for almost everyone.
Yeah, it's looking like a return to austerity and unprecedented tax rises in peacetime. Someone said the good news, or one Tory MP said the good news is what services won't be cut and what tax rises don't actually happen. I think there's probably not many people who are not worrying or thinking about what this will mean for them and their finances. Apparently Hunt and Sunak have met about 5 times this week in the cabinet room, and there's a feeling seems like a thinly veiled truce in the Tory party about what this budget could mean for the party and for their election chances, in terms of if it does go wrong or doesn't go as well as they'd hoped, what that will mean for them, what that will mean for the markets. Some Tory MPs are worried that Jeremy Hunt is going to try to overcorrect what Liz Truss set in motion. We've heard from Kwasi Kwarteng this week, kind of a preemptive get ahead of the narrative, or try to, and saying that the problems that are occurring didn't just happen in the 44 days that Liz Truss was in charge, and he's right, because I'm old enough to remember the last round of austerity. It didn't work then, and I'm sure if they cut too deeply, it won't work now. Poverty does trickle upwards. Money might not trickle down, but poverty does trickle up. Even if you want to grow, but people can't afford to buy things because their bills are going up, the taxes are going up, there's talk that council taxes could also rise, then how will they have money to spend? How will they have anything left over? How can the economy begin to grow? So I'm really rooting that this government have the right message, have the right plan. And I think, whether or not you support the Tory party, we should all be really invested in this going right for us, because if it goes wrong, some devastating consequences we're already behind other countries in terms of our growth post-COVID.
Yeah, and just on that, Tom, on that lack of growth post-COVID for the UK, do you think part of the problem is that we have had this whiplash in terms of economic policy from a pretty unstable Tory party?
I think that's certainly part of it, although at the same time I feel like there was a lot of kind of market irrationalism in response to Truss's very incoherent plan for the economy, certainly, but one that I don't think warranted the sort of response that we saw. We're just in a very febrile international economic climate at the moment, and for all the kind of Tory complacency, we did have a fundamentally weak economy going into this, longest squeeze on living standards since the Napoleonic Wars, flatlining productivity growth for so long. We were very exposed, so a kind of crack up was coming. It just turned out for some reason that mini budget and all the mad politics around it is what seemed to spark all of everything to sort of come crashing down, if you like.
And Janelle, you pulled out this story in the Express about Alok Sharma warning on delaying on climate action.
Oh, I think that might be Tom.
Oh, Tom. Tom, quick line for me on that.
Yes, so closing the COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh, the outgoing president of COP, Alok Sharma, saying that the cost of inaction is going to be significantly more than the cost of action. I do sort of wonder what cost is it that he's talking about. I mean, with net zero, it's kind of, it's in the trillions in terms of the amount that it's potentially going to cost. And I think that particularly with the economic climate that we're in at the moment, things like net zero are effectively like fantasies that the working classes of this country can't stand at this point. I think that if you want to do something about climate, you can't do it in a certain way that's going to make people worse off. And given the fact that we are in this energy crisis, we need to get serious about this. Aside from the questions of war and words, you've also got to make sure that there is cheap and reliable energy. And I think that's something which is so missing from this discussion oftentimes.
Okay, I think we'll have to leave it there. We'll see you both again next hour, Tom Slater and Janelle Aldred. Thank you both so much for joining us. See you again next hour. You're watching Sky News Breakfast. Stay with us. Ahead in the next hour, we will have all the latest from Ukraine as residents in that newly liberated city of Kherson in the south of the country celebrate the withdrawal of Russian forces.